Antonelli's Cheese Club. That's right, and it's May. It's gonna be May. And we have such an exciting theme for this month. It's mountains.
Yeah.
Ain't no mountain high. Oh my gosh. I'm really excited because what's fun about these mountain cheeses is we are out here subverting your expectations.
100%.
I know what you're thinking. You're like, Alpine, Gruyere, Comté, Swiss. No. We've got a whole smorgasbord for you. And we're so excited to dig in. But first, my name's Natalie, and I'm a cheesemonger here at our Hyde Park retail shop in Austin.
And my name's Casey, and I'm one of the events hosts here at the Cheese House in Hyde Park, Austin.
Yay! Oh my gosh. Are you ready to dig into the
So
cheese?
ready. So ready.
All right, so our first cheese is a pasteurized goat cheese with a bloomy rind from Spain, and this is Carne de Cabra, which means cane of goat. And it's got this gorgeous log, and what I really love about this cheese is during affinage, which is the cheese aging process, what emerges is this Penicillium camembert rind, and it's an edible rind, and it actually softens the cheese from the outside in. And it is gorgeous. I'm so excited. Let's try this.
Yes. So this cheese comes to us from Marcia, with the Humilia region, so it's Mercian goats that are used to make this cheese. And like Natalie mentioned, they add those Penicillium camembert mold spores in it. And so what that does is, particularly in this cheese, it creates three very distinct layers, right? So you've got your sort of like floofy rind on the outside. Just underneath is what we call the cream line, where it's gonna be a little more sort of like buttery. And then as you get closer to the center, it's more sort of crumbly, right? And so what I like to do is I like to try all three of those parts separately. So little bite of rind, little bite of the paste or the cream line, and then that's paste center.
Oh my gosh.
To really kind of see what everybody's bringing to the table.
Yeah.
You know, and then like one big bite of all three of those components together to see how they kind of balance each other out.
That's the Casey method. I did the one big bite right off the bat. That's the Natalie method. That's so interesting though.
And you know, spoiler alert, there's no wrong way to eat cheese, right? So whatever method calls to you, we recommend, you know, just eat the delicious cheese. But yeah, it's really fun, right? It's got some nice minerality to it, especially as you get closer to the center where it hasn't fully been ripened yet. So that's gonna have more of this sort of like bright chev sort of lactic flavors.
I was gonna say, it really tastes like chev, but that rind on the outside gives it like so umami, like ramen, mushroomy flavors. And then when you have that paste, that like bright chev. Oh, what I love about goat cheese too is like, it's always going to be tangy and bright. That's what I love about it. And that rich umami flavor like really balances it out. Oh, it's so good on this Easy Tiger baguette. Austin staple.
Yes. And then to kind of play with that minerality and that brightness, we recommend the Hopfburger Veltliner as a white wine to go with it. Because this is going to have that sort of like pithy, kind of like lemon lime sort of brightness to it. It's not sparkling by any means, but it has a little bit of like lift off your tongue. I call it grown-up Sprite because that's what it reminds me of.
I love that.
It's like perfect when it's 1,000 degrees outside, which is all the time here in Texas.
It's true. Ooh, and honey on goat cheese is always great.
Yeah. So if you ordered the Deluxe box, then we also threw in these monofloral honeys here. The way to get into these, this is the first question we always get: how to open a honey stick. So you're going to want to create pressure on the seam, right? So we're pinching the pokey corners together from underneath. So just kind of like that, and it pops right open.
Wow.
If that doesn't work for you, then, you know, put it in your purse. 100% of the time.
Oh, Casey.
It works every time.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah.
So you're just drizzling some honey over this?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
So just kind of old school style, right? So just do a little drizzle of something kind of sweet, you know, and then with something kind of like salty and a little bit sour, a little bit, you know, umami, and yeah.
Honey with goat cheese is always like such a great pairing because that sweetness and that richness of the honey balances out that tangy brightness of the goat.
Woo! Tastes like a lemon meringue pie.
Yes, it does. Oh my gosh. That's the crust. Oh my gosh, delicious.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to move on to our next cheese, which is a stateside cheese. So this is called Cloud Cap, and this comes from Cascadia Creamery in Trout Lake, Washington. It is a gorgeous raw cow's milk cheese, and honestly, I would love to retire and become a Cascadian cow because they graze on these rich volcanic soils, like pastures with this rich volcanic soil, and they drink from like glacial waters of snow-capped Mount Adams. And I'm like, sign me up, I want to do that. But this is a really gorgeous, delicious raw cow's milk cheese. Like I said, it's got a nice buttery yellow paste on the inside, but you definitely want to get some of that rind on there too. There's like kind of like a mushroominess to it.
Yeah. So you may actually kind of notice a little bit of similarity between the Carne de Cabra and this guy here, because it is going to have kind of a floofy rind on the outside, a little bit of like a cream line just underneath, and a little bit of kind of a more crumbly paste in the center. Yeah. But the difference is the Carne de Cabra is intentionally inoculated with that Penicillium camemberti. So it creates that bloomy rind cheese. This is what I call just kind of like the perfect example of terroir, right? So this one's not inoculated with anything. It's just, they just create this like perfect, super healthy cheese, and then it hangs out in these like lava tube caves. I know, right? Yeah, so cool.
It's not a spicy cheese, it's not a hot cheese.
Yeah, it's perfectly room temperature. But then all of the beautiful microbes in that cave sort of like attach themselves to the outside, and they form what we call a natural rind. And so some of those microbes are going to have a similar effect as that Penicillium camemberti, which is why you get that sort of like butteriness just underneath, and you are going to get that mushroomy flavor. But for me, this one is more of like a white button mushroom flavor. This is more like a salted shiitake mushroom, you know. So just kind of two different sides of the same coin.
Oh, delicious. Yeah. And it's a perfect pairing again with this Gruner Veltliner, like so delicious. This is gonna bring out the fruity and like floral notes of this one, whereas the Carne de Cabra is a little bit more of like the minerality of it. Yeah. Also great if you just have like a lemon or like a grapefruit sparkling water or seltzer. Like that's a nice little pairing there.
Absolutely. And this one is made with unpasteurized cow's milk. And there is this kind of misbelief that you can't make cheese with unpasteurized milk in the United States, and that's not true. As long as it's been aged for 60 days or longer, it's going to have produced enough acid that acidity is going to create what's called an inhospitable environment for bad bacteria, right? So instead, you just get all those beautiful sort of grassy notes and those more delicate flavors that may have been cooked off during the pasteurization process. So.
Yeah, I get like garlic or like scapes, you know? That is, yum, amazing. So moving along, different country, we're gonna go to Italy, and I know what you're thinking. Cheese, Italy, never heard of it.
What?
Not likely. So this is cacio di Roma, and I'm sure you've all heard of the pasta dish cacio e pepe. So this is cacio. It's made in like a pecorino style, and if you're familiar with Pecorino Romano, what characteristics of it? It's a great grating cheese. It's nice and peppery, always good with black pepper. We love that. I'm the kind of person that likes to snack on the cheese that I cook with, and this delivers, absolutely.
So this is a semi-soft cheese, right? So Pecorino Romano, which is probably what we think of when we think of pecorino cheese, is a harder cheese, and it's super salty. This is going to be younger, and it's been brined in kind of a saltwater bath. And, you know, so it creates that, it's more sort of like velvety and luscious on the palate, right?
Because it's same day sheep's milk.
Yeah.
And I love sheep's milk because it always has that like velvety, rich texture that lingers on the tongue. Ooh, sheep's milk is so good.
So good. And it does still have a little bit of that pepperiness that you expect from a sheep's milk, but not so intensely, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit more mild, but because it's a little bit more mild, it's like the perfect pairing with the soppressata or any salami. Anything that's nice and peppery and salty is really gonna pair very well with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you got the deluxe box, we also included the soppressata from Ali. So Olivero is the founder of Ali Salami. His family's been making salami in Italy since like the 17th century. And he decided he was gonna like branch out and do his own thing, move to America, and started a salami company, you know,
as you do,
as you do, you know. And so So this is kind of his classic sopressata, and fun fact about sopressata is there is no right or wrong way to spell sopressata. You can put as many S's and P's and T's in there as you want, like literally however Nona spelt it is the right way to spell it. And there's, just ask your grandma. There's also no like particular spice mix that is a sopressata flavor, right? So some have oregano, some have red wine, it's kind of all different things. What sopressata is actually referencing is during the curing process, it's very lightly pressed, right? And so it starts out being a perfect circle, and then it just a little bit shifts, and what that pressing does is it creates that kind of like corner of the brownie effect, where like everything is just so perfect.
So good and like caramelized. I love that. Honestly, Casey, I really feel like you should be wearing like a lab coat. You know so much about every cheese and like the process and like how to make sopressata. Like I'm so impressed.
Oh, and then wine, if you wanted to do some wine with it as well. Super classic combination here. This is a Primitivo from Italy. So this is a biodynamically produced Primitivo. Primitivo is a very close cousin to Red Zinfandel here in the United States. So if you like those kind of like peppery, spicy, while still being super velvety type of wines, which 100% describes exactly everything that's happening here, then that is going to be a great go-to for you.
That's going to be like the ratatouille flavor explosion. Yes, I love that. Speaking of flavor explosion, so we're jetting away from Italy and we're going to France, and we're going to have some Bleu d'Auvergne, which is this gorgeous rockhouse milk blue cheese.
I like how I'm demonstrating the blue cheese as though they don't know which one is the blue cheese.
It's so beautiful. And actually this one has like a really fun story too, because back in like the 1850s, a young cheesemaker was making cheese, and then he realized like, oh shoot, there's mold on my cheese. And what I really love about cheesemakers is they'll see mold on something and they put it in their mouth and they realize it's amazing. So thankfully he did that, and then also realized that there was that same mold on some rye bread that he had, and realized that it wasn't something within the cheese, that was something atmospheric, this ambient nature. So now, to make sure that all the Bleu d'Auvergnes are, of uniform, they inoculate the cheese with that veiny blue mold, and it's so delicious. I'm so excited. I'm gonna put some on this, again, Easy Tiger baguette.
So once upon a time, the way that they would make blue cheese in France was they would take those loaves of rye bread, and once they were all kind of covered in blue mold, they would take them and kind of like clap them together over the vat of milk, and that's how they would get the mold spores into the milk. Now we have labs that grow the exact molds that we want, so we know exactly what's going into your cheese. But once upon a time, blue cheese was not gluten-free. Yeah.
Wild, like little breadcrumbs
in
there?
Oh my
gosh.
Yeah.
Wild.
Of course, this is before we knew what gluten was, so,
That's true.
Yeah.
But, we're eating a French cheese, but we are in Texas, so we would be remiss to not pair this with a pecan.
Yeah.
And we have these gorgeous mocha pecans. These are also going to come in the Deluxe Cheese of the Month Club, and you just press that pecan right into that blue, and this is my breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert. It's everything.
And then if you still have some of that Primitivo as well, again, like that luscious sort of like almost purple flavor, of the wine.
It is purple.
It's purple. It tastes like purple, but like spicy at the same time, super velvety. Is really going to play well with the espresso and the chocolate here, as well as the saltiness and the umami of the cheese.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of umami in the cheese, you may notice there's a little bit of a pink hue on the outside. So it is very similar to kind of how, so we have a style of cheese called wash rind that's the most umami driven style. The way this cheese is made is they actually kind of they just rub salt on the outside of the cheese while it's aging. That pulls moisture out of the cheese and creates almost like a little layer of brine on the outside, which is the perfect environment for Brevibacterium linens to grow, which also contribute to that umami flavor. So it's kind of, it's not a wash rind cheese, but it definitely has some influence from that as well.
It definitely does. We say it dresses up as a wash rind for Halloween.
Yep.
It's very brothy and that is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's made with it's made with cow's milk instead of sheep milk, so it's not quite as punchy as like a traditional Roquefort. When you think of French blue cheese, we think of Roquefort.
Yeah.
Cow's milk doesn't have as much butter fat in it, so that penicillium roqueforti is breaking down those fatty acid chains, and as they get shorter and shorter, they develop those kind of spicy flavors. So since we didn't have as much butter fat to start with, it's not going to produce as much spice. So this is going to be a little bit more of like a delicate blue cheese.
Yeah.
Relative to its sheepy neighbor.
Yeah. Whenever I give Roquefort to folks that come into the cheese shop, they're like, and I'm like, yeah. What did you expect? Surprise! Gotcha. So, well, that is our May Cheese of the Month Club cheeses, mountain cheeses. Remember, we're subverting your expectations because, ain't no mountain high. So enjoy your cheeses, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.